Heroic has defeated Liquid at the inaugural Blast Bounty to make the playoffs. This comes off the back of yet another rebuild for Heroic after their core was scooped up by Falcons to assist their Magisk and Nico lineup. The best thing that Heroic did was last year signing the former ENCE player of Nerds and his coach Saw. This got Saw in the door to stay at Heroic, who has had a sort of history of building these young teams and developing them like he did for ENCE, and he has now done it again. He has picked up the former Sangal core as well as Inner from Gun 5, and he's managed to get Sun Pius back under his mantle from Falcons. And it is a beautiful sight to see. Youngster is a very exciting young prospect. It's awesome to see Sun Pius delivering again at a high level, because I've always been a fan of his. I believe he's a great opper. But overarchingly, how the hell is Heroic still alive and still competitive? Going as far back as the Hunden incident in early 2020s, or 2021, I believe was the year it specifically happened. 2021. But 2021 specifically, with the whole Hunden incident, first initially causing some shifts in that Heroic lineup, being literal corporate espionage going against their domestic rival, then having the Stabby incident many years later, where once again their domestic rival was able to get two of their players off of them and get them to get rid of their most famous player at the time, who was their billboard player. Whatever you think of Cadian, for the years he was on Heroic, he was the face of Heroic. And basically gutting your domestic rival of all of their iconic players, leaving them with only Shush and Tesses, who are by no means poor players, but it was a forced rebuild again going into 2023, 2024, where they had, the Nerds, Degster, Kixan, Tesses, and Shush lineup, which on paper should have delivered fantastically. And this is also after they had CjDoes in for a while, and CjDoes was a very serviceable opper and rifler, but his opping was just missing that little extra bit of X factor. And now we thought that, from this game that we saw at the Major with Heroic, we saw them play that playoff game, one of the best games played at the Major. They had finally started clicking, they had finally started hitting their dynamics together as a team, and I was so incredibly excited to see them coming into this year. But they get snatched up by Falcons, and once again, a team I love, just like ENCE, has been gutted by Falcons. But Heroic just refuses to die. Even going back to that whole, they needed 10 million a couple of years ago. No matter what seems to come this organization's way, they somehow have found a way to rebuild rosters, get the money to purchase adequate or great players, and have been continuously spinning it forward and forward, raising the standing of their organization to the point that they have been competitive at the highest tiers of Counterstrike now for almost half a decade. And now they also have Saw. And if Saw wants to stay here and make Heroic as great as it can be, he is one of the most important pieces that you could possibly have for his ability to develop young talent, but also to develop young oppers, young IGLs, specifically having taken players such as, Sun Pius or, Nerds, or even, working with Snappy and then bringing in Kixan and working with Kixan after his time. He has worked with many people that are either at the end or beginning of their development, and I think that he will be a fantastic leader for this young group of guys. And Sun Pius, Sun Pius is back, man. Either way, I'm very excited for the future of this young Heroic lineup. And honestly, this year in Counter-Strike, with this lineup and even the NIP lineup that I am surprisingly excited about, we are going to have an incredibly exciting competitive year, even amongst the tier 1.5 teams. Last year was one of the most competitive years in Counter-Strike history, in my opinion. And to see more of the teams that were, how shall we say, wanting on the world stage shore up their floors to make it even more competitive. And that, even thinking about Bet Boom, who were able to scrap together a actually competitive CIS team with leveraging, Boomage, who will always be overlooked despite being a major winning Grand Slam winning IGL, even though it was under Blade. we are going to have a fantastic year for Counterstrike, and Blast Bounty has kicked it off in a very exciting way, and that's just kick-ass. Also, shout out to Imperial FE, that fucking Deagle clip. Choice. Either way, have a great day, guys. Who's excited for playoffs at Blast Bounty, and who do you think's gonna win it other than Spirit? Because Spirit. Oh, also FlyQuest with their new Opper. That's right. They have their European Opper. They got Regali. They got Regali. Yeah, they have a European Opper who is a massive upgrade over Alistair, and holy shit, I think they're actually going to be way more competitive than we think, because, you know, Dexter also has his European experience, you know, from leading Mouse, from leading Fnatic. You have a European Opper, and you have 3, if you were watching, you know, the RMR last year, 3 very cracked riflers that are very underrated, in my opinion. You know, the only reason that FlyQuest even made the major was because their rifles went ham and carried them through all of their series. And to get such a aggressive and large upgrade in op firepower will definitely make them far more competitive going forward, coming out of the Asia Pacific whatever region. And that's not even to mention that we still have Mongols growing. We have FlyQuest getting a major upgrade. We have all the other regions slowly starting to build up. And it is fantastic to see that it's not just going to be pure European dominance all the time, and we'll actually have some hyper-competitive teams spread throughout the world. But either way, sorry, no more tangents. Have a great day, everyone. I've been CJ.